Good evening, 49er faithful. Welcome to another episode of the live 49ers Mailbag, one of my favorite shows to do. I love bouncing back and forth between those questions that get previously submitted and those that I find in the chat live. I don't know, keeps me on my toes, keeps me guessing, keeps me going back and forth. There's something about the energy of this show that I really like. Tonight's is going to be packed. It has a slew of questions that were already submitted, and I see that the energy in the chat was live even before we went live. We had Stivers 209 Football, Swan Song, Rich G, Sean 951 Niners, E Kim, all sneakerheads alike, non-sneakerheads coming in to say what's up before the start of the program. I see Raphael 562 Niners coming in to say what's up as well. Glad to see everyone here. We got a ton of mailbag questions already submitted today. All these questions come in from either 49ers Mailbag at gmail.com. And of course, they also may come in response to my tweet that I send out Tuesday mornings asking for submissions via Twitter. As always, these answers may be lightly edited to fit on the screen. They've got to fit on that little banner for me. I will always read the original question as it was posed to me. So if you notice the discrepancy between what you hear and what you see on the screen, that's exactly why. I had to adjust it. I had to shorten it. I had to fit it on the banner. I see Andre Moore, sneakerhead, popping into the chat as well. What's up, Andre? As always, if you have a question and you're live in the chat, type in @Rob or @RobShoe so that I know your question is directed at me, and I will bounce back and forth in between the two. We've got a lot of freaking questions, so let's jump in. We're starting with the previously submitted questions, couple of those, then back over to yours in the chat. Which way is the chat? The chat's this way. Dan R. came in with this one. How likely is it that the Niners will ever accept less for Jimmy in a trade than they believe he's worth? Will they be stubborn and hold on to him if they can't get what they want? Dan, I appreciate that question. I doubt, honestly, that they will ever accept less than they believe Jimmy G is worth. I sense a very stubborn streak, a stubborn energy coming from the front office in trying to recoup value for Jimmy Garoppolo. That said, I believe that the 49ers probably have adjusted what they believe Jimmy's worth now that the quarterback carousel has come to a screeching halt and the 49ers and Jimmy Garoppolo were left in that game of musical chairs without a place to sit. So you would think there's absolutely a chance that the Niners are adjusting that value to match the fact that they got no suitors there. It would be madness not to. It would be a little crazy to stick with, oh, no, we had the right value attached to Jimmy Garoppolo. Nobody came calling, but we had the right value, and we're going to stick with it. I will say, this may not be appreciated, but I will acknowledge, I think there's absolutely a chance that Jimmy's on this roster at the start of the year. But it's a very, very slight chance. I'm talking like less than 5% chance. If they can get him to take a lesser payout, if they can renegotiate that contract and get him to take less money, I do think that chance goes up of Jimmy Garoppolo being the backup. But I'd bet that they would cut him if they could not get Jimmy G to take a pay cut. You cannot pay a backup quarterback $27 million. That's just unreasonable, isn't it? Isn't that unreasonable? I think that's absolutely unreasonable. And the 49ers wouldn't do that. All right, Korean 49er coming in with our next question. This one came in via Gmail. Again, I'm going to read out what Ekim sent. I got the question on the screen for you. Rob, as I've said before, I take a lot of things with a healthy dose of skepticism. If it's true that the 49ers front office and coaching staff are afraid to start Trey, they deserve to be roasted since they've had no plans at starting quarterback outside of keeping one that continues to make rookie mistakes on the field as a veteran quarterback. Jed should ask why the plan was in place when they moved up to 3 and why the starting quarterback situation hasn't been fixed since 2017. There's some irritation in Korean 49ers question there. As you can see, I boiled all that down to, if it's true that the 49ers front office and coaching staff are afraid to start Trey, do they deserve to be roasted? That felt like the appropriate question there. I would say if that were true, then yes, definitively, the front office would absolutely deserve to be roasted in that scenario. I don't believe that that's true. What we're seeing right now is still very much a smokescreen put out by the very stubborn front office that we just talked about that is still trying to deal Jimmy Garoppolo. If we do see Jimmy Garoppolo in preseason action out on the field, at that point, that's when I'm going to start to get worried. All right, I want to jump into your comments in the chat to get to those as well. Keep it going back and forth. Here we go. Let's see. Rohan coming in, 2-hour stream again. No, we are not going to go into the angle where we have the sun streaming in. I am getting out of here by 6:30 tonight. We've got a 90-minute max on this one. So no, we will keep this one a little bit shorter. David Williams coming in to say what's up. Jay Nubbs coming in to say hello. Swan Song. At Rob Shue, if Jimmy is on this team week one at his full salary of $27 million, would this be the most disappointing 49er move ever? If not, what was? This is an interesting question, Swan Song. I mean, if Jimmy Garoppolo is still on the roster, would this be the most disappointing? It feels kind of like that would be it. It feels kind of like that would be the most disappointing piece of 49er news I have ever. Nope, not for me. The news that Eddie DeBartolo made a last-minute pitch to Joe Montana to stay, and he would give him his starting job back no matter what Seifert wanted to do at that point. Eddie D was coming in and saying, Joe, you stay in San Francisco, you can have that starting job. And Joe passed it up and went on to Kansas City. I think that has to live as the moment in 49ers history that will burn the most for me, because Joe Montana was my childhood hero. I was absolutely infatuated with Joe Montana at that period of time. I grew to love Steve Young, but that wasn't something that came right away. It took me a little bit to get over the breakup with Joe Montana. I was like 8 years old when I started watching Joe. He was my hero. He was a hero. He was and may still be the GOAT when you take into account different eras of football. So yeah, the Joe Montana news has to be one that lives a little bit higher, but this would be a close second because that's a pretty negative hypothetical right there. That would be brutal. All right, looking for those that are at Rob Shue. Edgardo Rodriguez coming in at Rob. Am I the only one who wants this offseason to end already and see how this actually plays out? And hopefully we're a better team at the end of it. Edgardo, you are not the only one who is feeling that. You are not the only one feeling that, hey, let's just play some football. Let's just get the San Francisco 49ers back out there on the field, because I'm tired of all this nonsense. I am tired of all the drama. And I want to know if this team is as good and as deep as I think they are. Unfortunately, we've got some months to go. We are going to need to be patient here. We are going to need to dissect everything that happens for our team, because that's the way we're going to pass the time. That's the way in which we're going to get to real football, by talking about all this other stuff. Sean 9519ers vouching for the 2-hour stream. At Rob Shue, the 2-hour stream was awesome. I agree. I had a phenomenal time. Sean 9519ers coming in at Rob Shue. No, the disappointing news would be if Trey was healthy and Jimmy G was on the roster, because that means Trey is a disappointment. Otherwise, Jimmy G is gone before week one, period. Trust. I tend to believe that. I do think there is a situation in which the stubbornness of this front office leads to a scenario where a Jimmy Garoppolo with a pay cut stays as a backup quarterback. I believe that would be a mistake. I understand Jimmy Garoppolo as an asset, as a quarterback, has value. I understand why the front office would be stubborn in wanting to maximize that value. But you have to weigh that value against the sanity and emotional health of the locker room. And I'm with you, Sean, 951ers, that you want Jimmy off of this roster before the start of the season, because otherwise the signal you are sending is exactly what you're talking about right here. It becomes a mixed message. You're talking about, oh, Trey's the guy. Well, we kept Jimmy here just in case. It certainly seems like you kept something so that you could pull the ripcord and have the backup shoot come out. That is not what I want to have with Trey Lance's first year under center. All right, I'm getting back into the previously submitted questions. Again, if you are here live in the chat, I appreciate you. Hit me with the @Rob_Shoe to ask your live questions, and you'll get my answer off the cuff. Just exactly what I am thinking on the subject. All right, diving into the next question. This one coming in from the notorious GAV. We slipped a couple from the notorious GAV in here because I liked him. Kyle Juszczyk is a tight end. Change my mind. Gav, I will do no such thing. No. A tight end. That oversimplifies it, Gav. That oversimplifies it. Kyle is an actual, not hypothetical, but actual offensive weapon. The kind that we talk about around the league. The kind that we wanted, you remember, I'm not even going to say his name. All right, Jerick McKinnon. The kind that we wanted Jerick McKinnon to be, an offensive weapon. Juice can be that. Juice should be used more as a tight end. He should be used more as an offensive weapon. Maybe he will be this year. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is when we get to see what we all believe is the potential for Kyle Juszczyk's contributions within this offense, not purely from a blocking standpoint. We all know what he can do, blocking. He's a phenomenal blocker, an excellent blocker in space, on the move, at the second level. It is uncanny what he's able to do. And he's got potential as that offensive weapon. Maybe Trey is going to be able to unlock that potential this year. It will, at least at a bare minimum, Gav, I view this as the year that we will be able to answer the question of who is the limiting factor with Juice's usage. Who is it that's standing in the way of this phenomenal offensive weapon from putting his stamp all over every single game? If it was Jimmy, he should have a great year. Trey is a different player than Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm not trying to bring down Jimmy, but I'll tell you what, there were some misses between Jimmy and Juice. You could see Trey connecting on some of those. If it's Shanahan, however, refusing to work him in, refusing to be flexible, preferring him as a blocker, and I could understand why he values him as a blocker. I don't know why he wouldn't also incorporate the other aspects of his game. But if it's Shanahan who's been limiting him, then don't expect much improvement because that end isn't changing. All right, next one coming in from Brian B. I like the phrasing of this, Brian. Here we go. Here's the original question. Do the Niners have the audacity to have Jimmy instead of Trey in the state of the franchise, considering Jimmy was tearing up and thanking the fans after the NFC Championship game because he knew he was ultimately leaving? How deep will this facade go? It's a great question. It's worded perfectly. Brian B. coming in the clutch. Oh my God is my answer. Could you imagine? Seriously, could you freaking imagine that if the 49ers wheeled out Jimmy G at the state of the franchise? No way. No way the 49ers would have the audacity to do that. Do they? I mean, could they take the facade that far? Yeah. I mean, they seem to be riding this charade. They seem to be having a really good time with it at the expense of you and I, at the expense of our sanity, keeping Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster. It would be catastrophic in my book. Fans would absolutely riot. They would lose it. I would lose it. You would lose it. We would lose it if Jimmy were at the state of the franchise as one of the faces of this year's 49ers. It would be the ultimate trolling of 49er faithful. So my hope, fingers crossed, the 49ers do not have that one in them. I really, really trust that they would not go that far with this charade. All right, let's look into the comments for those questions coming in live. Those from you here in the chat. I appreciate all of your contributions here. Let me get to that next question. Let me see. We got a few comments in since the last time I checked. Lorenzo coming in at Rob. He says, at Rob, I got one for you. Do you now think our cornerback room is solidified going into the season? Crystal ball time. Give me 1, 2, and 3 by week 1. Who you got? All right, so this is interesting because I do believe that the cornerback room is much insulated from where we were last year. Charvarius Ward is the number one cornerback. They paid him as such. They're going to play him as such. That one feels like a lock. The next question becomes, and you know I had to throw it up here, Jason Verrett, the man, the myth, the legend. We've got his game-worn cleats here in the building, and we're rooting for Jason Verrett to have a comeback season so that I can have him on this program and then sweet talk him into signing these shoes for me because they came unsigned. I got to get them signed. I got to get Jason Verrett on the program. Jason Verrett needs to be a 49er when that happened. My hope, the ultimate hope would be that he bounces back from that injury. He is a healthy version of himself, not just from the 49ers perspective. Do I wish this, but I wish it from a human perspective. I want him to be healthy for the pure fact that it's tough to watch someone go through what Jason Verrett has been through in his life, suffered through, fought through, and not feel for him as a human being. I do. I felt for him when he went down. Niners teammates felt for him when he went down last year. That had a profound negative impact on the mindset of players in that game, and they spoke about it afterwards. The hope would be Jason Verrett can come back and lay claim to that other starting spot. I mean, if he's healthy, like he was in 2020, you could see him beating out Emmanuel Moseley for that spot. That would free up Emmanuel Moseley to slide into the nickel spot and play nickel. That would be a phenomenal pairing. Those three on the field at the same time. I'm laying out the prediction right now. This is the first time that I've really worked through that. I believe in Jason Verrett, and I'm putting the positivity out there. And I'm predicting that he is who we thought he was from 2020, that he is that guy that is going to fight back yet again from another catastrophic injury to get himself back on the field, because that's how he's driven. That's how he's built. That's what he's made of. Jason Verrett, you heard it here. I got faith. Lorenzo, that was a good question. See you, Smitty 209er, coming in at Rob. I cannot fathom the team keeping 4 quarterbacks. Please tell me that will not happen. I don't think that the 49ers will keep 3 quarterbacks. I think Brock Purdy would need to have a hell of an offseason in order to get himself a spot on the 53-man roster. The plan going in is Nate Sudfeld as the backup and Brock Purdy on the frickin' practice squad. Jimmy Garoppolo has been traded at that point, right? That is the plan. Now, things can go sideways. The 49ers have indicated they had plan 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through infinity, apparently. But I would guess, I believe the 49ers will be down to 2 quarterbacks by the time this season starts. Sean 9519ers at Rob Shoot. Juice is the NFL Swiss Army knife. Agreed. He is an offensive weapon. Party pooper. Rob, today Grant told us you and Grant met Ayuk's mom and a couple Niner fans in Green Bay. Anything you want to add to this? Party pooper, I got that question in the chat. It is coming up right now. Danny asked this very same question. I'm popping over to answer this previously submitted question. I'm going to be back in the chat to keep it going with your questions live. But anytime it lines up like that, I mean, that's kismet, right? It's meant to be. Danny coming in with this one. Got any juicy details from that dinner with BA's mom? Grant had said something about it on his show this morning. So do I have anything juicy from it? Yeah, actually, I kind of do. That was a fascinating dinner with some real talk. Real talk. But honestly, out of respect for the fact that it was off the record, I'm going to choose to keep that to myself. It's not meant to not shit. Like, I really want to share that. But honestly, out of respect, I'm going to choose to keep the exact details to myself because it wasn't intended to be shared. And that would feel like a bit of a violation of trust to do that. But let me say this. That was a highly, highly enjoyable dinner shared with fellow 49ers fans. I couldn't have been happier to have had that experience. And it was followed up by one of the greatest games in my memory, a special location with a very special outcome. I'm gonna say this. This is an interesting one that came out of it. Brandon's mom correctly predicted that there was no way that the 49ers would lose that game, that they would will themselves to a victory on Lambeau Field. She pointed out just how unique that moment was for all of us to be there, sharing it in Green Bay together. She said, there's no way the story ends here. I felt it when she said it, and she was absolutely right. It was meant to be a special game in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and it sure as hell was. It was a very special dinner as well. I appreciate the question. All right, getting back into your comments here in the chat. Got to make sure that I can catch up. 12 up. No, wait, Colby's came in first. 12 up, you're next. Colby Lancaster at Rob. Who do you think the starting slot corner is week one? I just went to that a moment ago, so I'm going to stick with it. Emmanuel Mosley, because I'm predicting Jason Verrett makes a healthy return. E-Man in the slot. 12 up at Rob. How much could keeping Jimmy on the roster mess with Trey's confidence? A lot. A lot. I get people who say, oh, if you're going to be a quarterback, you got to be tough as nails. You got to be able to, fight through adversity. You can't let anything like that bother you. I get that. I hear that. It is a stressful position, but that would be my counter argument. It's already a stressful enough position. There's already the weight of the franchise on your shoulders. Why do we then need to take that and ratchet it up a notch and make it that much harder on the young gentleman who is already the youngest quarterback to be starting in the league, younger than the rookies coming in this year? So, yeah, I think we should do something to prop up Trey's confidence. I believe that the way in which you do that is by trading Jimmy Garoppolo and making it very clear Trey is the future. You already made that clear with how many picks you traded to move up to 3. So just go ahead and say it. Make it real. Joey Huff coming in at Rob. Where did the Debo smoke go? Poof. Gone. Just like the outrage that some people had at the fact that he was holding out. Right? As soon as it became apparent that he's coming back, the love for Debo began to return. I do think it's pretty funny how that went back and forth. I mean, believe me, I fell for it on the social media thing, and it wasn't falling for it. That was genuine disdain, genuine hurt from Debo Samuel. I'm just glad it wasn't so much that he didn't think he would be able to come back to the table and get a deal done. Clearly, he thinks that he will. Niner by Nature 88. Rob, thoughts on Poe playing fullback? I'm going to talk about Poe a little bit later, but I mean, special athlete. Would it be interesting if he lost some weight and made it into the fullback role? Yes, absolutely. We still have Josh Hokett as well. When Juice is on the roster, I don't think you're going to have any room for either one of those guys to really make contributions at fullback. At a best case scenario for both of them, you're looking at most likely on the practice squad. I'll get into why I don't think Poe necessarily makes the 53. Looking for that next. Here we go. BK from the Bay. Rob, do you think Danny Gray starts week one? Starts? No, I don't think he starts because I don't think you start. I would bet that the 49ers don't start with a 3 wide receiver package, right? I would think that you'd be looking at, I don't know, maybe 21 personnel. The odds are the 49ers are coming out to run. And so I think you'll see them in a formation that does that. And Juwan Jennings is most likely going to start the year in that 3rd wide receiver role. I think we'll see Danny Gray worked in. Remember how Kyle Shanahan seems to treat rookies. It takes them a while to earn playing time within the system. I don't know why I would expect that to be a heck of a lot different this year. Swan Song at Rob Shoot. Juice needs to tell Kyle, use me like Bill used Tom Rathman, 72 catches in one season. Or how about William Bar None Floyd? The man came in and wrecked shop his rookie year. 1994. Go look up William Floyd stats. I know Swan Song doesn't need to look him up. Swan Song was watching just like I was. But yes, hey, we have some epic fullbacks in 49ers lore. No reason why we can't use Juice more and get his name up the list in contributions on the offensive side of the ball from a production standpoint. 49er Gang 916 knows what I'm talking about. William Floyd was a freaking beast. A beast. If not for that injury that he suffered early in his career, man, he was headed for something special, ladies and gentlemen. KB 16,000, bar none, was hard. Agreed. Bar none was phenomenal. Swan Song back in. Bar none was amazing. So much energy and confidence. Oh, he had swag. My man had swag. Niner by nature, 88. Rob, doesn't Poe being 6'1", 300 pounds at fullback make him unique? If so, why lose weight? Very unique. I mean, William Refrigerator Perry type of unique. Why lose weight? If you can run at that speed, then don't. My guess is in order to truly function as more of a fullback, he would need to drop some weight. From what I'm reading, he's got the body type where he can flex a bit like that. And that's part of what makes him special, as well as being a big man that has those light feet. But yeah, I agree. A 300-pound frickin' fullback coming down the pipe. I don't want any piece of that if I'm a defender. No. James Schaefer, sneakerhead here on the channel, coming in at Rob. After the draft and signings, do you think they will sign any free agents? I know it's hard with Jimmy G, but still wonder. It is not just hard, it's near impossible. The 49ers, if they want to sign anyone of consequence, anyone with a salary basically greater than $895,000 per year, which is currently the 51st or 52nd most expensive salary on the roster right now, you only count the top 51. So anything at $895 or below just basically doesn't count against the cap because it replaces another contract that was already at that bar or below it. So they can sign minimal deals. That can be done. If they want to sign anyone of consequence, they have to free up cap. They have options to do that. It is not just Jimmy Garoppolo that they could move in order to do that. They could trade or release Samson Ebukam. They could extend Jimmy Ward. And I would guess that there are a couple other moves that could be made that are unlikely to be made. Certainly the one that we all expect is the trading of Jimmy Garoppolo. The question becomes, who's still out there that the 49ers would pursue? The question that pops to mind for me is about center. If Alex Mack is still potentially retiring, and the 49ers would know that a hell of a lot better than we would, then J.C. Tretter comes to mind. At that point, you got to move Jimmy because J.C. Tretter is not fitting on a minimum deal. J.C. Tretter is getting paid. That's probably why he's still out there, because he wants and demands a salary befitting a center of his caliber. Rohan coming in. Rob, what's your thoughts on potentially moving Leon O'Neal to linebacker and keep him on the practice squad in 22? Rohan, I am going to get to that one in just a little bit because I have a question wherein Lionel asked me about Jason Poe, Leon O'Neal Jr., and Taysir Mack. So I'm going to deal with all three of those at the same time. Rohan, appreciate the question. Steve O Supremo at Rob. Jimmy played 3 games where CP3 couldn't dribble ball. Please explain to 88. Steve O Supremo, I am confused by your reference there, good sir. Confused by the reference. All right, let me see. Sean 9519ers coming in. Rob Shoe, do you think Kyle envisions Trey more like Matt Ryan in 2016 in the way he draws up the game plan, or more like RG3 in 2012 when he won Rookie of the Year? My guess would be a hybrid of the two. I don't think he's going to shy away from using Trey Lance's legs as a weapon, but I know he would prefer Trey Lance be a pocket passer first, that he be much more John Elway, where John Elway had the legs, but used them sparingly towards the end of his career underneath the Shanahan era. That seems like the perfect role for Trey Lance. Operate within the pocket first and foremost, probably a little more scrambling than you'll have in future years in his initial year as the starter, but focus primarily on developing him as a pocket passer to operate more in the way that Matt Ryan did in 2016. Darren, Rob, do you think they restructure Trent's contract? I don't think they would this year. You probably start looking at restructures for Trent in 2023 or 2024. Typically, you let the contract go for a little bit, right? Because those early years of the deal are good anyway. You've backloaded the hell out of it. You don't want to immediately backload it harder. That's rough. Danny Young, at Rob, do you think Kyle will trust a rookie starting on the offensive line? I don't know that Kyle trusts a rookie to start anywhere. I mean, it's a legitimate question. He seems to really need those rookies to prove themselves, but we're in a situation this season where it feels as though the 49ers are going to need contributions from young players, certainly second-year players, and most likely someone that they drafted this year. You could see Drake Jackson being much more of a passing down specialist. That fits a little bit more with Shanahan's mold of letting players earn their roles, giving them a smaller chunk to bite off, seeing if they can chew it, and then letting them have a little bit more. But to see someone along the offensive line, that would take a lot. It would take a lot. We didn't see Aaron Banks basically at all last year. Swan Song, at Rob Shoe, also rolling cap can be a pretty huge thing to increase cap limit in 2023. Yes, to roll over some cap availability. If the 49ers do end up moving Jimmy Garoppolo, they do not need to use that salary this year. They can simply roll it over into next year, use it with next year's free agency class, or during the season this year for some mid-year movement. The 49ers experience sneakerhead here on the channel as well. At Rob, what do you think the 49ers record will be this coming up year? Gotta say, glad we have Debo, as am I. I have not done the official go through, but given the difficulty of the AFC West, I think it's going to be a challenging year. Someone walked me through last night their reasons for getting the 49ers to 11-6. They felt pretty good. I've not gone through myself and looked at it, but 11-6 felt about right. It allows Trey Lance to have a bit of an up and down year, which is what I would expect from someone in their first year starting. It allows for the fact that other than the Seahawks, who seem to be a little bit of a mess, the 49ers are in a very competitive division. And it accounts for the fact that they are playing an incredibly tough division in the AFC West this year. So 11-6 sounds good. Did I say 11-5 at some point? If I did, I was wrong. 11-6. Niner by Nature 88. At Rob, NDSU sits all of their rookies. It doesn't matter how good they are. Do you think Kyle is following this philosophy after last year? No, I do just think Kyle forces people to prove it. He really, if you're young and you're coming in and you're an upstart, he wants to see it. He wants to see the dog mentality. He wants to see you fighting and scrapping for every inch. That seems to be the type of coach that he is. It appears to be the type of coach that his father was as well. Running backs can break into the rotation. Doesn't matter what year you are if you're a running back. You could be an undrafted free agent. Boom. You could be the starter. I'm telling you, running backs are the exception to this rule for the Shanahans. Undrafted running back? Sure. You can be the most important person on my offense. No problem. All right, I'm getting back into the previously submitted questions. This one coming in again from the notorious GAV, saying, predict the captains on the 49ers so we can compare them after they are announced. Here are the 2021 team captains. George Kittle, his fourth year as a captain. Fred Warner, third year as a captain. Jimmy Garoppolo, third year. Trent Williams, second year. Eric Armstead, year two as well. First year wonders at captain, Jimmy Ward and Raheem Mostert. All right, so you're obviously looking at Raheem Mostert, gone. I think Jimmy Garoppolo, gone. And it's at least absurd to consider him being captain again, isn't it? Wouldn't that be absurd? That would be absurd. So here are my potential candidates on offense and on defense. As I see it, you have 3 potential openings out of those 7. Here are my 4 locks. George Kittle, lock. George Kittle will be a captain again. Mark my word. Fred Warner, lock. Fred Warner will be a captain again. Eric Armstead, a favorite within the franchise. The fan base coming around to that fact. Eric Armstead is a lock as a captain. Trent Williams. Of course, Trent Williams is a freaking captain. So that leaves, if we go with 7 again, that leaves us 3 spots for that. Who are the potential candidates on offense? Debo. Debo's a lock. Debo is a lock. You cannot go into next year without Debo as an offensive captain, as a team captain. So that takes us down to 2 positions. Who do I think they could put in there on offense? Trey. I mean, it wouldn't really feel right yet. It would feel forced, but you could see the team being like, all right, we've done a pretty crappy job of supporting our quarterback. So let's go ahead and make him a team captain, and then that'll bump him up in the eyes of the crowd. You could see them doing that. So he's a potential. Juice, definite potential. Defense, Bosa. Bosa feels like he's a lock to make it at some point. So I'm throwing him in there. I'm making that lock number 6, Nick Bosa. So now we got Kittle, we got Warner, we got Williams, we got Armstead, we got Deebo Samuel, and we have got Nick Bosa. Now, who's the last one going to be on defense? Are there any others? Could Jimmy get it again? Maybe, but the 49ers are not committed to him beyond this year. Maybe that means that his teammates who are in charge of the voting will vote him in as a team captain for one last time. That seems pretty likely. E-Man, that feels like a stretch. That feels like a stretch. You brought in Charvarius Ward. He's a first year. You don't think they're going to give it to him. So I got 6 locks, and then I got a coin flip. My locks, George Kittle, Fred Warner, Trent Williams, Eric Armstead, Deebo Samuel, Nick Bosa. And the coin flip comes between Kyle Juszczyk and Jimmy Ward. Because Jimmy Ward had the captaincy this past year, because he's not extended, I flipped the coin and I'm going Kyle Juszczyk. Kyle Juszczyk, juice for captain. Gav, I know that makes you happy, and I hope that I'm right about it because I think he would deserve it. All right, getting back into your questions before I finish off with the previously submitted ones. There's a few left. There's a few left in the previously submitted questions, so don't worry, don't fret. We will get to it. All right, Philip coming in with a question. Rob Shue, what does being a captain mean? It means you get the nifty little C on your chest. It is the team recognizing your leadership. It allows for everyone on the team to vote for those players that they want to represent them. Oftentimes, team captains will be the ones that go out for the coin flip at the beginning of the game. Other than the captain's badge on their jersey and the respect that they get from their peers, it doesn't mean a whole lot, right? It's a recognition of contributions to the team. It's a recognition of leadership. Definitely a recognition of leadership qualities. All right, Joey Huff coming in at Rob. Has anyone signed Tart? If not, why not sign him to a low one-year team-friendly contract? Joey, that's a great question, and one that I would be asking the San Francisco 49ers if I could at the moment. No one has signed Jaquiski Tart to this point. It's entirely possible that he and the 49ers have been in conversations, and they have said to him, hey, listen, we can't sign you right now. We got this big anchor contract sitting on the books. Got to get that off of there. But as soon as it's gone, we want to bring you in, Jaquiski. And hey, if you get another deal out there, that's great. Go ahead. But we want you back at a certain price. Now, that price isn't going to be much if it does happen. But I see this as a perfect marriage. This defense looks so elite on paper. If you added Jaquiski Tart back into what is, to me, the one remaining question mark at the safety position, forget about it. Forget about it. This defense would be, I don't care if it's on paper or not, would be freaking elite if you add Tart back. Jan coming in. Jan Stewart at Rob. If he intends to use him as a hybrid, then why run him into the ground his first 2 starts. We're talking about Trey. Why run him into the ground? Because he didn't know what else to do with him. I think Shanahan did not know how to properly use Trey Lance within his system when he put him out there for week 5. I saw a different reality in week 17. Week 17 and week 5 between Arizona and the Texans game, that was night and day to me. And the second half of what we saw against the Texans when Trey finally got comfortable, that was the Trey I think we really need to look at most when we try to envision what we're going to see in 2022. That was the furthest progressed version of Trey. That's the version that Kyle Shanahan is going to attempt to maximize within his system. That first game was not an accurate portrayal of what Trey could really do, in my humble opinion. Sean 951 Niners at Rob Shue. The prediction for record is dependent on the schedule where the games are played and what back-to-back away games and Thursday games are most important. The bye, hopefully week 9. I totally agree. When you have back-to-back East Coasters, if the Niners don't choose to stay back there, that's a very tough back-to-back. When you have back-to-back tough opponents, that matters. When you have a letdown game in there somewhere, you got to take it all into account. That was not and will not stand as my official prediction for record. I will go through each individual game after the release of the schedule on Thursday. NFL schedule comes out this freaking Thursday. Mark your calendars. We will definitely go down. We will go down the list of games. We will predict the record. We will get jiggy with it. Nah. James Schaefer at Rob, with a crowded running back room, which out of all the running backs do you think make the team? I think the odd man out in this one to me is JaMycal Hasty. JaMycal Hasty still could end up on the practice squad, but he's the one I wanted to see bumped anyway. So to me, that leaves Jeff Wilson Jr. remaining on the roster. Those are the two that feel like they're on the bubble. Could it be Trey Sermon? Yeah, weirdly enough, it could be. I don't get the sense that it will be. You got a guy on a rookie contract. It's too early to give up. I have to say it's JaMycal Hasty that gets the nod, that gets the bump, that just can't make that 53-man roster. All right, now we're getting into the question of the undrafted rookies. Here we go. Here's the original one from the 49ers undrafted rookie free agents. I have chosen, these were specifically chosen by Lionel. Which one do you think has the best chance to make our 53-man roster and why? Then Lionel came in to say Jason Poe, the offensive lineman / fullback. Leon O'Neal Jr., the safety, who by all accounts was going to get drafted, ended up an undrafted free agent. And Taysir Mack, the wide receiver as well. First and foremost, this is quite the list. These are 3 undrafted free agents. And I mean, we absolutely blew it up. An undrafted free agency. We killed it. We locked down some elite undrafted free agents. These are draftable talents. It's entirely possible for this whole list to make the team, or at least for them to make a NFL team. Perhaps the 49ers roster is too deep. Perhaps the puzzle pieces just don't quite fit for all 3 of these to make it, but they could. Plus Donovan West. Like legitimately spot for 4 undrafted free agents to make a very deep roster. That's how good of an undrafted free agent class the 49ers scored, in my humble opinion. That's pretty crazy to me. I find that to be fascinating. If I've got to pick just one with the best chance, I'm looking at the position groups that they're going to be competing for. What's the competition that these guys are walking into in order to earn a spot? When I look at offensive line, when I look at fullback, that's a tough group to get into. Got to immediately give the edge to both safety and the wide receiver rooms. Those are easier to break into. Both of them have potential openings for a rookie to leapfrog somebody and grab a spot on the 53-man roster. So I'm down to Leon O'Neal Jr. and Taysir Mack. The 6 wide receiver spot, wide open. Comes after Debo, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, Ray McLeod, and Danny Gray. 5 locks. 5 locks for that wide receiver room. He's got to beat out Malik Turner and Tay Martin. That feels doable. That's totally plausible. I don't know if it's probable, but it's plausible. The safety spot also pretty wide open. for that fourth spot. I'm just not convinced that O'Neal will legitimately be vying for the starting role there. I know some have mentioned that. So to me, it is all about special teams at this point. And I believe he has the exact right mentality for special teams from what I saw from him at the combine interview. He had that dog mentality. He had that edge about him, that chip on his shoulder. And it's just going to be that much bigger after a guy who was projected to be drafted was not and ends up with the 49ers as an undrafted free agent. So you got Jimmy Ward, George Odom, and Talanoa Hufanga. Those seem like locks. Those are 3 locks. It's hard for me to imagine the Niners carrying 5 safeties. Could they? Sure. But I think 4 is more likely. So to me, that means that O'Neal has to beat out Tavarius Moore. Tavarius Moore is coming off of an Achilles tear. His strength prior to that injury would always have been listed as his athleticism. So that's the prediction that I'm going to make. I'm going to predict just what happens is Leon O'Neal Jr. beats out Tarvarius Moore because that athleticism may take a hit. Achilles injuries are very tough to rebound from. Very tough to rebound from at the same strength that you were and athleticism that you were prior to the injury. Look back at Richard Sherman. Look back at Michael Crabtree. It takes a little bit of time to get back, and it could be that that time isn't there because Leon O'Neal Jr. can, in fact, come in with that attitude, thinking that he'd be drafted, having that chip on his shoulder. I think he uses that chip and becomes a thumper on special teams. So Leon O'Neal Jr., out of the 3, I predict making the roster, becoming that thumper on special teams. All right, Gary T coming in with the next question. This one was definitely edited, so what you're seeing on the screen won't match what I'm reading. Here we go. At Rob, I really don't understand the negativity from a lot of fans towards Trey Lance. He's very young. Each time we've seen him, he has improved. I see huge potential and see him working hard to get better. Some people seem to want him to fail, and I don't get it. Give the kid time. Gary T. Gary T, I agree. Give the kid time. Why does it seem like some of those people are, putting that negativity out there? Probably for just that reason, that he's a kid. He's an unknown quantity at this point. And some people trend towards negativity. In the absence of information, people hallucinate. That's just reality. People fill in that information with their own brains. If you tend towards the negative, you're going to fill in the rest of that information about how Trey Lance is going to do this year, which is an unknown quantity. You're going to fill that in with negativity. If you're a positive guy, as I tend to be, and you've seen things to back up that positivity, and all the evidence that is facing you seems to indicate that Trey Lance will be able to make that next step, will be a competent quarterback at the NFL level, has the potential to be a far superior athletically gifted quarterback than the one he is replacing. To me, it's no stretch of the imagination to see the positive, to see Trey Lance succeeding within this offense, to see Trey Lance having a hell of a first year for the San Francisco 49ers, especially towards the tail end of that year. 490, we go global. We global, the next one comes from. Do you feel the team is better or worse? 490, we global. Better. Better. Thank you for the question. I'm kidding. I would never shortchange the answer like that. Here's why I think they're better. 490, we global. The 49ers are better on special teams. That to me is just a fact. Yeah, they didn't change their kickers out. I get it. They both got a year older, but coverage units, return units, both seem markedly improved from a personnel standpoint. Defense, they got deeper. Offense, they've got a new starting quarterback that I believe will be an upgrade over the previous one, a significant upgrade by the end of the season after those bumps and bruises of getting those first few starts. So yes, we are better. All right, getting back into the chat for those questions that have been coming in live, and I appreciate them. Syard with the super chat coming in. I'm also a fan of Danny Green, which explains the slip, LOL. Love the content. Thanks for the excellent, calm, and unbiased Niners info. Like and subscribe right now. Syard, did I say Danny Green instead of Danny Gray? Did I say Danny Green? Yes, could be. Could be. Wait, maybe you had an earlier question. No. Yes, he had an earlier question. Let me get back to Syard's original question here, because he came back in. I see the super chat where he is. Gray. I meant Gray, not Danny Green. Danny Green is a real person, but I meant Danny Gray. Syard, I didn't see where you said it the first time, so I believe you. I absolutely believe that you intended and said Danny Gray right up front and not Danny Green. All right, getting back into these questions. Here we go. Looking for the at Rob Shoe. I love it when the frickin' chat is just so alive during these mailbags that it's hard to find the next at Rob Shoe because everybody's just back and forth. I love that energy. I love the conversations that take place in the frickin' chat. I think what Carlos is saying here, at Rob, Tay Martin is making the 53. I'm interpreting that as Tay Martin making the 53 as that sixth wide receiver. That's what I'm interpreting right there. Again, Syard coming in to say Gray. He meant Gray. Carlos, at Rob, I agree with Grant. Running back of Georgia Tech made the team. One of our undrafted. Yes, absolutely. I had to choose specifically from the 3 undrafted free agents that were presented to me. I wanted to be clear about that. There were other free agents, undrafted free agents I would have selected out of that potentially, but I was asked specifically to choose between those 3 and the one that has the best chance to make it from those 3. Sean 9519ers at Rob Shoe. Over or under defensive points allowed, 15 points a game average, leading the league. I see this as a very potent defense, but man, we have some tough games on the schedule. I would need to look at historic trends and where average points per game tend to fall. 15 feels like a very bold prediction, given the schedule that we're facing. So I'm going to say over on that, but not over by a whole lot. I do believe this is an elite defense. I do believe they will be able to hold some of the offenses that they come up against that are absolutely phenomenal, those in the AFC West. I do think they'll be able to hold some of those in check, but not all of them. There'll be some high-scoring games. Have to be. Jan correctly saying, hey, some people just want to watch the world burn. Ain't that a fact? In reference to those that are just weirdly negative about Trey Lance, I think that's a fair statement. Niner by Nature 88 at Rob, all honesty. Did Trey beat out Jimmy in camp in 2021? If so, why do you think Kyle went with Jimmy G? This is tough. I wasn't there firsthand to say it. And depending on who you listen to, there were varying opinions on who looked sharper within camp. The consensus that I felt that I got in going through all of the information that was available to me, all of the trusted sources that had been there at camp, seen it with their own 2 eyes, what I got was that Trey was very impressive. And that within command of the offense, understanding the offense, getting the play call set up, understanding what defenses are doing in front of them, that Jimmy Garoppolo seemed more comfortable doing that. And that is totally reasonable to envision that. It is a rookie coming in with very limited playing time. So no, I don't believe from what I saw and from what I read that Trey did enough to truly grab that starting role. However, after some of the struggles, I think it got close and deserved to get close to where Trey was put in. You see a little bit of I'm going to let the veteran roll with it. He's earned this. He's put in the time this year. This is his team. I do think that factored into it. So Trey would have needed to clearly beat out Jimmy in order to get that role. And I agree with that logic. I know that may not be popular, that, hey, as soon as we saw flashes from Trey, we should have put him in. We knew the limitations of Jimmy Garoppolo. But let's just say, with those limitations of Jimmy G, we pulled off a miracle last year and we ended up in the NFC Championship game. And I know there are people screaming at the television right now, hey, yeah, we made it to the NFC Championship game. Guess what? We could have won a Super Bowl with Trey Lance. Maybe. But we did factually make it to the NFC Championship game with Jimmy Garoppolo. And so I can't fault them. Mid-year, I wanted to fault the front office, Shanahan. I wanted to get angry that we weren't doing as I thought we should. But given the end result, I think it worked out in the way that it should have. Ooh, it just jumped me down a little bit. Sorry if I missed your question, but every now and then StreamYard just kind of kicks me forward in the comments. E. Kim coming in with this. Rob, the 49ers projected record versus the AFC West this season. That's tough, E. Kim. I'm not looking at the schedule right now to see which ones are home or away. And I do agree with Sean951 that it's going to depend upon where in the schedule those come. Let's wait for Thursday, and we will see the entire schedule in its entirety, and we will go through those games one by one and predict them. And we will get a full breakdown of just what may go on next season. Troy, Sneakerhead here on the channel coming in. Rob, my guy. I'm thinking with our schedule, we go 11-6. We got another vote for 11-6. I feel like maybe we will end up there. Syard coming in. No, I did a membership badge and said Danny Green. How did I miss that? Where did I miss the membership badge? Did I miss it? I think that I did. I'm scrolling back up to see. Maybe you're talking about something else here. But it could be that StreamYard kicked me forward like I'm talking about. Every now and then it'll do that and I missed something. If I did, you have my profuse apologies. I am still scrolling up. No, I didn't see anything. But I get that you are not talking about Danny Green. We're talking about Danny Gray. We love Danny Gray. Love Danny Gray. Kurt the Chameleon. Rob, so how worried are you about the O-line? It's really a big question mark. It is a big question mark, but I'm confident in the depth. I feel pretty good about Alex Mack returning at this point, and that solidifies the center of the line. I feel pretty good about the two edges. Maybe not week one to start Mike McGlinchey, but I feel good about McGlinchey throughout the season. I like moving Aaron Banks back to his more natural position, but I have a question about this. So I'm jumping the gun. Kurt, and maybe it is the right. No, it's not the next question, but we got a couple more. Let me get back into those questions. I'll be back into the chat live in just a moment. Again, hit me with the @Rob Shoe. James, I see you here. I'm doing it. @Rob. Are you planning on going to some games this season, or are you waiting for the schedule to come out? There are 4 or 5 games that I want to go to this year, all road games. Now that we're playing in Mexico, that one got bumped in there. But I believe the others were Denver, Atlanta, Chicago, and some other road game that's not coming to me at the moment. But yes, definitely have plans. All right, getting back into the previously submitted questions here. We're coming up on the 6 o'clock hour. Got 30 minutes more, and then we got a hard out at 6:30 as the reminder. Here we go. Scott J coming in with a question about Chris Sims. Thoughts on Chris Sims saying anyone who was at 49ers camp last year was disappointed with Trey Lance. He wasn't at one practice. He's talking about Chris Sims here, not Trey Lance. Chris Sims wasn't at one practice. So where or who has he taken this assumption from? Players, media, coaches? Scott, good question. I take this BS and other stories like this with a grain of salt, quite honestly. I'm not calling Chris Sims a liar. I'm not saying he didn't hear this. I just know what I've heard from sources I can name, not unknown sources, not something that I'm hearing from actual people who had their actual eyes on Trey Lance for every single snap. Sims wasn't there. Yes, he has access to team personnel, but I wouldn't imagine that any of those personnel would want this story out there. Kyle Shanahan, Chris Sims' good friend, isn't calling him being like, dude, my next quarterback is terrible. He's not good. Go ahead and put it out there. We're trying to keep Jimmy, but we just don't know. No, that's not a story that's coming out of the 49ers front office. The only way this comes from personnel, to me, is if they are no longer on the team, in which case you got to wonder if they have an axe to grind. I do know a handful of people, again, that were actually there, that actually watched it. I know that I trust many of them as talent evaluators from previous talent evaluations they have done in other years with 49ers players. Say what you want about Grant Cohn. He's got a decent eye for talent, and he is not afraid to call it as he sees it in camp. He was impressed. Others were impressed. I was impressed with what I saw from week 5 to week 17. You cannot undo what I saw in that progression. When you watched week 17 against the Texans, were you not entertained? Were you not entertained? I was. So I believe my own eyes in this one and not the report from Chris Sims' unnamed source. All right, Peter L. coming in to ask, what's the deepest position group on the team currently? Peter L., I answered this one on Jack Hammer's program, and I was fighting between two position groups, and I'm still fighting there. It's a tough one for me between the defensive line and the linebacker room, both stacked. There's more talent in the D-line room, but that's primarily because it has more bodies. There are fewer bodies in the linebacker room. From top to bottom, the linebacker group has a chance to be elite on defense and on special teams, both contributions on both units. But honestly, I know it wavers from what I said when I was on Jack Hammer's program. He swayed me a little bit. I've considered it a little bit more since then. I got to go with the D-line group at this point. After investing in Drake Jackson, there are 12 or 13 men in that room who would have a chance to start for teams other than the San Francisco 49ers. And you cannot tell me otherwise. That is crazy depth. Absolutely mind-boggling depth along the defensive line. This defense, again, said it before, they have the potential to be real special. Real special. All right, jumping back into the chat to get your contributions here. Got to scroll back up. Make sure I'm not missing anything. StreamYard just keeps scrolling me down. Ooh, Rohan with a good one. Rob, what's going to be your favorite matchup this year? That's tough. That is very tough. There are some good ones. Certainly Kansas City comes to mind. You want some revenge. I want some revenge. I want revenge. That might be the sweetest, but I'll tell you someone else I'm always looking for revenge against, and that's Russell Wilson. I wouldn't have otherwise picked Denver anywhere near the top of this list. But I got to say, I've got revenge on my mind. No, it's not a revenge tour. Don't start the revenge tour talk. That didn't work out very well for us the last time. But we do need revenge. We need revenge on Denver and Russell Wilson. We need revenge on Kansas City, and we need revenge against LA. I would like to continue our regular season dominance of Los Angeles, followed by some postseason dominance as well. So off the cuff, without looking at the schedule in front of me, that's going to be my prediction. That it's one of those three that I'm looking forward to the most. And I feel like it's got to be KC. I was in Miami. I was sitting in the stands. I thought we had won it. I thought for sure we were winning it. That was painful. And I would like my revenge served cold, sir. Real cold. Real cold. Sean9519 is talking about the reason for Trey's negativity is because the 49ers used 3 first-round picks for him, and we have a quarterback that got us to the Super Bowl and to the NFC Championship game in the 2 years he was healthy. So it's divided for now. That's fair. A very fair summary of it. Troy, sneakerhead here on the channel, at Rob, which group on our team is the best? Running back, wide receiver, O-line, quarterback, or D-line? Got to be D-line out of that group. I think it's D-line on the entire team, but out of that group, for sure, D-line. All right, got to get to this super chat. Chris Royal coming in. I'm not as down on our chances against the AFC West. Without seeing placement of the games, I think we can go 3-1. Our defense will match well. Hey, it is going to be a question of the defense and a question of Trey Lance's readiness. The further into the season those games are, the more likely I think it is that we go 3-1. If those games roll early on in 2022, Trey's going to be less experienced. That's going to feel tough to beat. Those teams are ready-made teams that'll come in rolling. If the Niners haven't gotten their stuff together at that point, if Trey isn't feeling it by then, it could be rough. If those games are happening later in the season, which we'll find out on Thursday, then yes, I think it is entirely possible. From a talent standpoint, it is absolutely possible. I view this as a very talented 49ers team, capable of competing with anybody. Capable of competing with anybody. Jan just coming in to test. At Rob Shue, testing 1, 2, 3. Troy saying, I'm 90 minutes from Denver. You want to meet up? Hell yeah. I will be there in Denver. I would be happy to meet up. Oh, Sean found the other one that I'm going to. This one's a lock. This one is a lock. It's Vegas. It's Vegas, baby. It's Vegas. E. Kim coming in with a question. Rob, how much longer do you see Trent Williams playing at his peak before he starts to trail off? That's a great question. How old is Trent Williams right now? He's 36 right now. Is he 36? He is 33. Why did I think 36? Goodness gracious, 33. All right, so I'm predicting 3 years. 36 is the magic number for Trent Williams. I think that's the final year of his contract. So the last year or two of his contract is where I'm predicting you will start to see the rubber meeting the road of whether the 49ers are really willing to pay him what they scheduled to pay him at the end of that big contract, or if Father Time has begun to meet up with him and take him down a peg, in which case you would think the 49ers may have to make a decision because that is a backloaded deal for an older player. All right, Stivers 209 football. Rob Shue, are you a baseball fan and basketball fan? Did you watch the Giants and the Warriors game last night? Take care. Bought last night. All right, so I am a basketball fan. I am a moderate baseball fan. I like basketball in the playoffs. I did watch the Warriors game. That was a good game. My team is the Portland Trailblazers. Second favorite team is the Golden State Warriors. I have had the opportunity to be at some phenomenal Warriors games and enjoyed them immensely. Carlos coming in. Rob, if Trey in OTAs has the same issues like wobble, fastball, slow releases, media goes harsh on him a lot. He has the most pressure on him as a quarterback right now. I agree with that. The pressure on Trey Lance is immense. Mocha Frost at Rob Shue. Hopefully I'll see you in Denver. My wife and I plan on traveling from Florida to see her team versus ours. I would absolutely love to bump into as many Niner faithful as possible at all of these games. I'm telling you. I love hooking up. I love the connection. Love saying what's up to those that tune in to the program. All right, let's see that next one. Dan coming in with this one. At Rob Shue, is there any reason to believe anything will change with Kyle's choking woes late in big games? Potentially, Dan. I agree that it's a problem. I agree that it has reared its ugly head in some big, ugly situations, some high-pressure situations. But yes, I think there is room for optimism. You look at just simply gaining that experience, having it over and over again. It may be overwhelming the first time, then the next time, less so. The more you repeat the same experiences, the more commonplace they become. So if Kyle is choking in big moments, the more big moments he is in, the smaller those moments will feel. I believe he is genius enough to get himself back to some of those big moments. Think that he has surrounded himself by enough talent on that roster to win in those big moments. Hopefully, his brain chemistry has adjusted to the pressure of that moment, and he surrounded himself by better people who can, call him on his BS. If he's making some questionable calls, someone needs to be in his ear. I think that's first and foremost what I hope for from Anthony Lynn. Also, we have a new sneakerhead coming in. Hold on. I saw that pop up. I'm getting to it. Here we go. And it's Dan. Dan is the newest sneakerhead on the channel. Dan, welcome to the program. All right, scrolling back up to see I don't miss those questions coming in. I still got a couple of previously submitted ones. So again, I apologize if I miss anyone's question here in the chat. That is not my intention. I do not do it intentionally. I just sometimes don't see them. Patty Grimes at Rob, how will the 49ers do against the Rams this year? I see him going 1-1 in the regular season, but then beating them in the playoffs, which is the one that matters. Yeah, it's tough. I'll wait for the schedule to actually say which one they win, which one they lose, because you got to know where it falls, what's happening before, what's happening after, where was the bye. All of that matters. But I see the 49ers as very capable of beating the Rams, not just because they own them, they're the big brother, but because they're a talented team, a deep enough team that's capable of beating the Rams. Glenn coming in to say, great breakdown, Rob. I appreciate that, Glenn. Appreciate that. Mark asking the games I'm planning on going to away. So I just ran through them, but in case you missed it, I'm looking at Denver, Vegas, Chicago. What was the other one? Atlanta, because I really want to see that stadium. Got to check off the stadiums on my map here. That's what this thing is all about, checking off the stadiums. And got to go to Mexico. Got to go to Mexico. Stivers 209 football. Rob Shoot, Drake Jackson, outside linebacker, reminds me of Aldon Smith. When Jim Harbaugh dropped him his rookie year, he did really good. I like that sack on Russell Wilson in the NFC Championship game. I see, the 49ers attempting to sort of use Drake Jackson in a role similar to how the 49ers used Aldon Smith in his rookie season. It would seem to match. You've got a sack specialist, pass rush specialist, who may not be as developed as a player, so get him in there on the obvious passing downs. Let him do what he does best, and that is get after the frickin' passer. All right, trying to get down. Starco fan 212 at Rob Shoe. Who do you think we should have gotten instead of TDP? That's tough to say without actually looking at who was available in that spot. I would have liked the 49ers to have traded up 8 spots from 93 to 85 and taken Marcus Jones, the return man and nickel cornerback. I believe he's going to be special. Unfortunately, he ended up with another guy I think is going to be special, Cole Strange, on the Patriots. They nabbed 2 of my draft crushes. It makes me feel good about my evaluation of talent, but I think I tried to take them later in the draft, so I would have missed them both as the Niners did. Jan at Rob, did Grant and you really have dinner with Brandon Ayuk's mom? Yes, we did. I talked about it earlier in the program. You can rewind back and watch that. It was a great dinner. I cherished it a whole lot. Grant, myself, a couple of Niners fans were there. That was great. That was great. HR coming in to say the same. Rob, did you check out Grant mentioning you and he and Ayuk's mom dinner in Green Bay today? I didn't, but I already planned on watching the show with I'm a big fan of Grant's father, Lowell Cohn. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch that. It's been a while since I've seen one. So I will definitely get into that and see him mentioning said dinner. It was great. It was great. Veja Diablo at Rob. Trey said Jimmy is his BFF. The relationship between those two could work if he doesn't say why. It could work. Yes. But did you notice that Trey said that on the way out and then Jimmy hopped up to the podium and kind of blew it off. He was like, yeah, Trey's great. Because someone set him up. He was like, Trey was like, you guys are going to be friends for the rest of your life. And Jimmy seemed to say, I'm not so sure about that. So Trey was doing the right thing because he's still with the franchise. He needs to keep that narrative going. Jimmy at that point felt like he was done with the 49ers organization. I don't think he thought he'd still be on the team at this point. So he seemed to be telling some truth at that point. We got John Solo just coming in to lay the kindness here. That is appreciated. Dan, you are most definitely welcome. I appreciate the newest sneakerhead here on the channel. Niner by Nature 88. Rob, when do we get the news about Max staying or leaving? My prediction is fairly soon. I mean, we have no reason for it not to come out at this point, which is why I believe that he's staying. There's no reason for secrecy beyond today, I believe. I believe it is today or tomorrow where that calculation period for compensatory draft picks in 2023 ends. And you'll see teams starting to sign some of those free agents yet again. That's when you could see some news about this. That would be the last hinge point to me. E. Kim, Rob, plus or minus 8 games played by McGlinchey, over. I'm taking the over on 8. I'm smashing that over. Smashing that over. Well, I missed one. Sean 951 Niners, Rob Shoe. I do not subscribe to the Shanny choking claim. Super Bowl, Matt Ryan fumbles, etc. Super Bowl versus the Chiefs, the defense, 3rd and 15, gave up 21 points straight. NFC Championship game, Tart drops a pick, and the Rams D-line played hard. Those are all viable reasons. I see enough erratic behavior by Shanahan in those clutch moments to say that there is an issue. I do agree with your sentiment that that issue is overblown. Overblown for sure. E. Kim, Rob, post-2000 49ers Mount Rushmore. Mine's Gore, Staley, Willis, and Harbaugh. Tough to leave off Justin Smith. Real tough. Let's see. Gore, Staley, Willis. I can't fault that list. Off the top of my head, I feel like you nailed it. Gore, Staley, Willis, Harbaugh. Yes, 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 yes. Starco fan 212. Rob Shoe, I know I said yesterday, rest in peace, Deebo Samuel trade rumor 2022. Can we have a moment of silence for the dead rumors? Yes, we can. And we're done. Moment of silence for the Deebo trade rumors. They should be gone. They should be gone. All right, I got to get back into the previously submitted questions. I will be back into the chat in just a moment. Don't you all go anywhere. Keep those questions coming. This one is about the O-line. This is the one I hinted at earlier. Mike F. coming in. What's the projected O-line with and without Mac? This was on Twitter, and I have to first give a shout-out to Jose Sanchez, writer at the Sports Illustrated, All 49ers, for answering the question for me on Twitter. He wrote, and I quote, with Mac, starting at center. No Mac, he's not starting at center. Boom. I mean, nailed it. Beautiful, Jose. Absolutely. Mwah. Beautiful. Couldn't have said it better myself. But seriously, here's how I view it. With Mac, obviously you have Trent Williams starting at left tackle. I'm going left to right. Now you've got left guard. I predict that Aaron Banks is going to be the man to beat at left guard. It's his natural position coming out of Notre Dame. They'll be sliding him back there. He's had a full year in an NFL weight room. I predict it will be Aaron Banks at left guard. Now, this is the hypothetical with Mac returning, so obviously Mac is at center. That leaves Daniel Brunskill remaining at right guard again this year with some competition, but I believe it's fair to assume he beats that competition out. Mike McGlinchey is going to make his return and hold down the right tackle spot. If he's still recovering at the start of the season, I'd predict a competition between Justin Skule and Jalen Moore for the role, edge going to Jalen Moore. Goodness gracious. Without Mac, still the same at left tackle, left guard. I still think it's Williams and Aaron Banks. Seems to me that Jake Brendel would get the first crack at starting center, which would not give me a whole lot of confidence. I'd expect Brunskill would be competing there as well. So that might leave the right guard spot open. So you're looking at a competition between Jake Brendel and Daniel Brunskill at center. Now you're going to be looking at a competition at right guard as well. I was surprised Colton McKivitz ended up playing left tackle last year. I projected him with the short arms as more of a guard, and I think he could be in that guard competition still. You have a lot of bodies along the offensive line, not a lot of clear answers if one of the starters is missing. The hope is the presumptive starters are there. It would be the same dilemma at right tackle that I mentioned earlier, that you could have competition if McGlinchey isn't back. All right, second to last previously submitted question. This one coming in from Raphael, sneakerhead here on the channel. With the release of the schedule on Thursday, how many primetime games do you believe the 49ers are going to play this season? The 49ers were originally scheduled for 5 primetime games last season, coming off of a disappointing 2020 season, coming off of an NFC championship run. It's hard to believe that number is going to go down from 5. But 5 is a lot, usually the most that any team gets. So it sort of sandwiches my pick right there. I'm going to say it stays right where it was last time. 5 primetime games out of 17. That's my official prediction. Swan Song coming in with the last previously submitted question. I will then get to 1 or 2 more in the chat, and then I have to get out of here. Swan Song coming in. If Jimmy is on this team week 1 at his full salary. Wait, we answered this one live. We answered that one live. Swan Song got it in live. So that means me back to the chat. finishing this out with you guys that are here right now. HR, Rob, get a percussion massager and white foam roller. I need that. I really do. I need a new chair as well. This one's ergonomic, but in some ways, it's worse because of that. Absolutely worse because of that. Carlos, Rob, Trent, Banks, Brunskill, Moore, McKivitz. Woof. That would be interesting. Trent on the left tackle, Aaron Banks left guard, so we're in alignment there. He thinks Brunskill wins out at the job for center if Mac does retire. Then you have Jalen Moore coming in at guard, and McKivitz, with those short arms of his, he did play left tackle in a pinch, getting in that right tackle spot. Chris Royal with the super chat. Why is J.C. Tretter still available, in your opinion? It's got to be need versus price. It's got to be teams not having a huge need at the position and J.C. Tretter and his camp asking for a pretty significant salary. He is the premier center option out there. He doesn't have a track record for injury. I don't see any reason that teams would be staying away from him at this point. So it has to be that they're just unable to come together on a deal. All right, the super chat is taking us home. Chris Royal got in the last one here today. I thought this was a phenomenal show. I hope you did as well. I'm looking forward to Between Two Beards. We'll be on tomorrow at 5 p.m. with Random McMahon and myself. And then we will get the schedule release coming out on the same day as the Sneakerhead call-in show. So you guys will get to comment on the frickin' schedule. And then you'll watch Jack and I break it down on Friday. We will get into that schedule. We will talk about that. All right. This was a phenomenal show. I appreciate all of you here in the chat. I appreciate all of you that are watching at a later time. Definitely appreciate those that submitted the questions beforehand. Please keep those coming. If you want to submit your questions for next week's mailbag, please send them to 49ers Mailbag at gmail.com or look out for my tweets that come out on Tuesday morning from the Left Shoe on Twitter. Thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful evening. And until next time, cheers, faithful.